Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I'm finally going to be filming my review of Beyond Redemption by Michael R. Fletcher. As I've mentioned before on my channel, this is probably the book that I get asked to read and review the most. There are a couple of others, but this one, I have to say, is probably the most popular one that I get asked to read and review. And finally, we did it. In the year of 2025, we started it with a bang and I decided to read Beyond Redemption. Now, Beyond Redemption is a trilogy and it's set in a very dark world. It is very much a grim, dark story. And it basically follows like a bunch of different characters as they're all enacting their own missions. But all those missions kind of interconnect. See, the magic system is like powered by like insanity. And the more like deluded and insane a person becomes, like the more powerful they are. Like it's very unique. I have never read a book with a magic system quite like this, and I think it's very special in the way that Fletcher executed it because it feels like a very original story. And I love how I've just gone straight into what I like about this book, so let's just continue on this thread. It is just such a unique story, and I think the magic system is just so unique. Like, it's one of the coolest magic systems that I've read in a very long time, and you can tell the author really spent time building this magic system out because it has like gravitas to it. Like you can tell there's layers to this magic system, and I can't wait to see how that gets explored more and more in the series. Religion does play a very big part of it, and there's quite a lot of philosophical discussion around religion and gods and what it means to be a god, what it means to sacrifice yourself to be a god, and what it means for the people who kind of believe in those higher beings. Like, it's really fascinating how there's this kind of exploration around how does one create a god and at like what cost, which I wasn't expecting. Like, I didn't expect this book to have so much religious exploration, but I really liked it, and I think he did it in quite a nuanced way. I would say this book is quite anti-religion, but I'm okay with that. Like, but I think he did it in a way that wasn't forced, if you know what I mean. I think there's some people who are like so anti-religion that they're like doing it to be cool or something, like trying to be edgy, but I don't feel like Fletcher was doing that. Like, I think he approaches it with nuance. I think he did it in a way that left me asking questions myself about religion in a modern context, and I always really appreciate it when an author kind of puts me on the spot like that. So I did really like that. Given that I just randomly went onto themes, let's talk a little bit more about the thematic work. There is some really great themes in this book, aside from the religion side of things, because given that we are following a multitude of different characters, and all of these characters are in like different places, they're in like different standings in society. So as an example, we have like a battle-worn warrior who's kind of done with life, as we often get in grimdark fantasy. We also get like this woman who works with one of the priests, and she is questioning her place and her role in this world. We also have a guy who basically wants to become a god, and he has his own inner battles. Like, each of these characters are fighting their own delusions. And what I really appreciated and what I really liked and what I think was exceptionally well written was how each of these characters feels so distinct, yet they're all facing the same struggles. They all fall into very specific archetypes. But he's able to unify these characters in a way that feels very realistic and feels very authentic, because even though they're all coming from different parts of the world and they're all different types of people, right, fundamentally, they all feel very distinct. And I think that's always hard to do generally in a multi-character story, in a multi-POV story, but I think it's particularly hard to do in grimdark, because oftentimes when I have read grimdark, all the characters read the same. They all feel like edgy edgelords, and they all have the same motives, they all have the same desires, they all have the same story trajectory, if that makes sense. But I think in this one, even though they all kind of are having the same struggles, which is with their identity ultimately, they all feel very distinct. It's very rare when I read a multi-POV story that I like every single POV the same. And I have to say, like, I really enjoyed every single POV. Like, you know when you sometimes read one POV and then you're really missing like the others and you want to go back to the others? Like, I didn't feel that way with this book, and that's quite rare for me. So kudos to the author for being able to really flesh out these characters and make them feel like really meaningful, but also like really realistic and authentic. The other thing that I really liked about this book, and I fully realized, sorry, I was just looking outside of my window because I can see some like steam coming out. But another thing that I really liked is Fletcher's writing style. I was a little bit worried that the writing style wasn't going to gel with me, particularly, as I mentioned before, because a lot of grimdark, I think authors try to be really edgy, and rather than making it edgy, it can often make it feel very cringy. But I think for the most part, he got the balance right. Did have a few little niggles here and there, but it was nothing major. It didn't leave me with like a bad taste in my mouth after I finished reading the book. If anything, I actually wanted to jump straight into the second one, but I'm trying to like distance out my trilogies, and I don't have the second book yet, so I need to pick that up at some point. But the point is that I think his writing is really addictive, and it feels very grounded. He's not mincing words, he's not being overly flowery, but he's able to also build the world in a way that gives us enough of a picture of like what this place is like. I also really like the tone of this book. I think writing grimdark, especially modern grimdark, is just really hard these days for the reasons that I said before, which is that it can often feel forced, can often feel like you're trying too hard, it can often feel a bit cheesy. But I didn't get that vibe in Beyond Redemption at all. There was one little niggle that I had that I did find really irritating, but it wasn't to do with the tone or the world. It was to do with one very specific thing, which is, especially in the first half of the book, all of the characters just moan about how much they want to kill each other. And it got to the point where I think I was like 20% in. I remember distinctly being in my office and just thinking, just kill each other, let's just be done with it, because it was so tiring after a while. It was particularly like, I think it was up to like the 40 to 50% mark. They just kept threatening each other, and it's like, just do it. Because at this point, you're like kind of undermining your own character, because you're saying it so much, but you're not actually doing anything about it. It kind of undermines how serious you are as an individual and whether you're actually going to follow through on what you're saying. So that was like literally my only niggle. But I think overall, like, it's very well written. We have a distinct sense of what this place looks like, what it feels like. It's very dark, it's very unforgiving. There's very little hope, if any at all, and there's a lot of violence, injustice, and it's chaotic because a lot of these characters are just straight up going insane or are already insane. This is for the first time in a very long time where I've actually come out of a grimdark fantasy book and I've thought, wow, that actually feels like a really authentic world that doesn't feel exaggerated or annoying or cheesy, which I've seen a lot in recent grimdark fantasy. Let's talk about characters. I've gone in a really weird order today, but that's okay. Characters. The characters are really good in this book. As I mentioned, it's multi-POV, and you know, we get a few of the kind of typical, I would say, archetypes. Like I said earlier, we get kind of like the beaten up warrior who's kind of done with life and kind of wants to have a quieter life going forward. We have this kind of prophetic figure who thinks very highly of himself and he wants ultimate power. We have other characters who, you know, they've all got their own struggles, they've all got their own desires, and they're trying to kind of battle those two things, you know, what they want versus what the world is allowing to give them, if that makes sense. And I think as I mentioned, each character feels very distinct. I liked all the POVs equally, and I think each of the characters were just really well fleshed out. Like, I think we get a very good sense of who they are in the first like 20-30% of the book. I think they all go through very interesting journeys by the end of the book, and I am very excited to see where these characters end up by the end of the trilogy, because I have no idea. Like, I literally have no idea. I liked that we had some really interesting male characters, and I think we also got, in particular, two very interesting female characters who were written in a way that I quite liked and I quite appreciated, because I think we often get these kind of character types of women, particularly when they're like physically strong, that just feel really cringe to me and feel not dishonest, but they just don't feel real. They don't feel authentic. But as an example, we get one female warrior character, and she just felt really good to read. Like, she kind of felt like who's the character in First Law, the female character, Pharaoh, I think it is. She reminded me of Pharaoh, and I really like Pharaoh as a character because it's a different type of female character that I don't typically like, because oftentimes that type of female character is written really poorly in my opinion. The Pharaoh felt very distinct to me, so much so that I'm still talking about her today, and I read that series years ago. And I think this female character in this book, she reminded me of Pharaoh, and I thought she was very well written, and I'm really curious to see if we'll get more female characters in the later books as well. I really hope we do, because I think he writes them quite well. I think the last thing that I will mention is that I think this is just one of those series, at least so far for me, having only read the first book, where you kind of just have to trust the author and that they know what they're doing. And I have a feeling that Fletcher does know what he's doing, because this world feels very distinct. These characters, while they are quite typical characters that we get in grimdark and dark fantasy, they do feel distinct from what we typically get, and they are very well written. I think even with the extreme darkness that we get in this world, there are these little lighter moments, and I think the way that the book is paced and where the story is going, I'm just really, really interested to see where this goes. Like, I think I'm just going to have to buckle in and just kind of, again, trust that Fletcher knows what he's doing. And so far, I think he's really shown that to me. So I'm really excited to pick up book 2, I think, maybe in the next couple of months, because I'm just really curious to see where it's going to end up going. So I do just want to say thank you to everybody who recommended me to read this book, because you were right. I did really like this book, and I ended up giving this one like a 4.5, 4.75 stars. Very, very solid book. Very few issues with it, and the issues that I did have were little minor niggles. Overall, great start to the trilogy, and I'm really, really excited to see where it goes next. Somebody who's read the entire trilogy, can you let me know down below whether I should read books 2 and 3 close together? Because I'm always wary about leaving too much time between books in a trilogy or a series. So let me know down below if, you know, I should pick it up sooner rather than later, or do we get like a recap, and will I be able to find my way quite quickly, because I'm always conscious of that as well. So thanks for watching, folks. If you've read this book, please do let me know down below in the comments below. Particularly, I'm curious to hear from people who've read the entire trilogy. Like, let me know how the trilogy shapes out for you, because I've not read too many thoughts about this or heard too many thoughts about this, because I don't want to get spoilers, so please do keep it spoiler free. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.